All right, so AWS Compliance. Go ahead and watch that intro video. Whenever you're ready, we can continue with ours. All right, so we got a few terms to define, right? So compliance, as they discuss, is just complying with a certain set of rules that your organization might have to adhere to, right? Again, if you're a medical organization, HIPAA is a typical one. There's all sorts of different compliance requirements. If you're working with government secrets, right, your government or data or information, then you're gonna have another set of requirements, right? So yeah, it all depends on what kind of data you're handling, who you work for, how is your organization funded, etc. So let's first define an AWS artifact. So an AWS artifact is a self-service audit and compliance portal. So this is part of the AWS ecosystem that provides on-demand access to AWS security and compliance reports, agreements, and certifications. So if you're not an expert in compliance, right, but you kind of want, or you just need a little bit of help, right? So you are familiar with what rules and regulations you need to comply to. Again, we'll go with the HIPAA example. So say you want to comply with HIPAA, AWS is going to have a whole slew of tools that you can use so that you can ensure that you are meeting those compliance requirements. So they're going to give you an assist in that sense. So there's two main sections of the AWS artifact service. It's the artifact agreements and the artifact reports, which we'll be discussing. So what is an artifact agreement? Well, this allows customers to review and accept compliance-related agreements directly in AWS. So if you want to prove, right, that you are complying with a certain set of rules, you can do that directly within AWS. They have an entire service dedicated to this. So you can review, accept, and manage agreements for an individual account and for all accounts in AWS organizations. So different types of agreements are offered to address the needs of customers who are subject to specific regulations. Again, they bring up the example, right, of HIPAA. So yeah, if you're a medical organization, you can prove, right, you can get the correct documentation and information to show, hey, I am adhering with these agreements. So a second part of that is going to be artifact reports, which provide on-demand access to AWS compliance and security certifications. So if you want an official report proving that you've adhered, right, you'd follow all the compliance agreements, your data, your services are adhering to HIPAA, for example, you can generate a report directly from AWS artifact. So these reports are provided by third-party auditors. So these are independent organizations and auditors. They've tested and verified that AWS is compliant with a variety of global, regional, and industry-specific standards and regulations. So they bring in these auditors. AWS brings in the artifact reports. And essentially, this is evidence and proof that the AWS cloud services that you're using can adhere, right, to the specific compliance requirements. So even if you have a really special case, a really special organization, real sensitive data, AWS has your back. It's going to provide you with the AWS artifacts that you need to show, hey, everything that I'm doing on the cloud is definitely, they support, right, these regulations and these rules to make sure that I'm handling the data in the correct manner. And if you don't, right, then you're subject to lawsuits, fines, just a whole lot of trouble. So you can provide the AWS audit artifacts to your auditors or regulars as evidence of AWS security controls. So again, this is all about meeting compliance, meeting a certain set of rules. So there's a whole bunch of different compliance artifacts that you can pull up on AWS artifact. There's HIPAA right here, right? There's some other ones. Let's see, we have some Asian Pacific, right, compliance requirements. We have some European ones, some US ones, right? Department of Education is one. So yeah, depending on what your organization is doing, what kind of data they're handling, then that means you're gonna have to meet some certain requirements. So I can tell you that for my organization, when I was an engineer, we had to meet the Department of Defense requirements. So we had to follow certain rules. We did use AWS, even though it's the cloud, right? Even though it's kind of like available for everyone to use. AWS does follow strict requirements, strict rules, so that if you do need to meet certain regulations, right, they're going to have the infrastructure and they're going to have the compliance documents to support your needs. So yeah, here's a bunch of different ones. If you want to learn more about compliance reports, you can definitely visit this link. Definitely not required. So the Customer Compliance Center. So say you need some extra tools and resources to make sure that you are hitting those compliance requirements. There's an entire center dedicated to that. So you can read compliance stories to discover how other companies in the similar industries have solved various compliance, governance, and audit challenges. You can also access compliance white papers. So white papers are basically reports, documentation, guidelines on topics such as answers to common questions, risk in using the AWS cloud, and also auditing checklists that you can use to make sure that you are hitting those rules and requirements. All right, so next up, we're gonna hit a very, very dangerous and unfortunately sometimes common attack when it comes to services online, and that's gonna be denial of service attacks. So that'll be next up.